I love the NBA playoffs. It's so good. Every single night, you get something happening where you're seeing an unbelievable game. There's always elite basketball. The talent is through the roof. It's March Madness, but better. I do love March Madness. It's probably, I don't know. I don't know which one's my favorite, whichever one's going on at the moment. But the NBA playoffs are such a string of immense talent on both sides. There's usually not that many bad series. Even the 1 versus 8s are interesting. And more than that, you just have incredible storylines. So let's dive into them. I got a lot of things I want to get through. When we're filming this, the play-ins haven't completed yet, so we don't know who the 8 seeds are, but I don't think it matters that much because I don't like the 1 versus 8 odds. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but usually the 1s are just so juiced to the gills that, if anything, it's worth taking the 8, but they're probably going to get smashed because the Suns are good. Before we get there, and we dive into the odds and the standings and the matchups and all the stuff, subscribe, like, join the chat, do the things. All right, let's get to it. So here we are, and I do think the East 1 versus 8 is more interesting than the West, because I have picks for the play-in tonight. So if you're watching this before the play-in happens, then get to the end of the video. You'll get some picks. Hopefully we nail them. We're up 45.3 units in 2022. Pretty good stuff. Had a huge Masters. Go back to that. But the Heat against the Cavs or the Hawks, totally different, is an interesting series. So I definitely don't like the Heat at the odds they're going to be getting. So I'm going to stick away from that anyway. In the West, the Suns, I think, just roll, and the odds will probably be for them to roll. So you could just take that game by game and have a better time. So we're pretty much just going to pick it up for all the other series. Boston versus the Nets, Bulls, Bucks, Sixers, Raptors in the East. And then down in the West, it gets more interesting, I think. Because Grizzlies and Timberwolves is really fun, but the odds are really wide. I don't think that one made it onto my board. We'll get to that. Nuggets, Warriors, I feel like for some reason we've seen them play a bunch of times. It just sticks out that the contrasting styles of it really, it's just such a clean basketball game. It's like the one big guy against the team that wants to space out the big guy and go faster. It's just quintessential matchup. Odds are pretty wide there, too, but I do like one of them. And then Mavs Jazz is tough because of the Luka injury. So let's look at what the odds say. We'll go game by game. First, you have the Raptors and the Sixers. And this one is probably, I mean, we're starting with it, but it's probably the hardest one on the board overall. I really think that it's any outcome here wouldn't shock me. I started looking at the series spread because I figured maybe you can get Raptors plus 1.5, and that could be nice. But then if I'm going to take that, I might as well just take the Raptors to win the series, right? Instead of giving the minus 152, you take the plus 154. It's just hard to know what to make of this because this is just Embiid is going to go really hard. The Raptors have been red hot. I like the way they've closed the year. Pascal Siakam's been awesome. They finished 8-2 in the last 10. Siakam had a great second half of the year. They're finally healthy. I mean, that's the thing. I like Gary Trent, too. And Fred VanVleet, there's a world where he outplays Harden in this series. It's just hard to bet on a Harden series. Like, all the time people are saying, well, he looks like he doesn't try. He looks like he's out of shape. He looks like he's not doing this or that. And that's right. But who's to say that he won't kick it up a notch when the playoffs roll around? Like, that might not be the thing that you want on your team, but there are guys that coast through the regular season and then kick it up a notch in the playoffs. People said that about Shaq forever. It's not true, in my opinion, for him anyway. But you do watch Shaq in the playoffs, even late in his career, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's a force. I kind of forgot. So it's not that crazy to see that happening for Harden. I think the Raptors will end up just doubling and tripling Joel and leaving Harden to do some damage. So we'll see if he can. For that reason, it's such a wild card. It's hard for me to know what's going to happen in this series, and I definitely don't feel comfortable taking the Sixers minus 184. I think if anything, you take a flyer on the Raptors, but this is a series where I would rather take it game by game. I'd rather see what happens in game one. I don't even think I'll bet game one on Saturday, but it's just too hard to know. If the Raptors just had a tough 20-game stretch to start the season and they're way better than we expect, I won't be shocked. I won't be shocked if they win this series. I don't think I'm getting enough juice at plus 154 to go against Embiid because that just feels like it's going to be a hard thing. And they have some bigs, but they're just going to end up throwing bodies at him, right? Siakam's not going to do anything, so you barely even want to use him there. So it's just hard to know what else you're getting from the Sixers aside from Embiid. And for that reason, I'm just going to stay away from this. I'm going to look at it game by game. I'm sure at Mike Mush Sports, Twitter, Instagram, you'll hear my up-to-the-moment reactions. And we'll do this series by series, so we'll put out another video each time and readjust. But this isn't the one where I want to put my money. It's too hard to figure out. I was trying to look at, close series. What happens if you bet both sides of it to go 7 games? Or series total games to go 7 is plus 190. But that, too, doesn't seem like enough juice. If I could kind of have total game, if I could get 6 or 7 and have that be profitable, I would like that, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. So if anything, go with Toronto as a dog. I can't imagine taking the Sixers as a favorite and feeling comfortable about it. It's too hard. Bucks and Bulls, I do have a really strong feeling. The Bulls have not been strong against good teams all year long, so we know that. And their record is just abysmal. They've gotten crushed by the Bucks a bunch. I've laid big spreads with the Bucks 6, 7, 8, 9 on the road in Chicago. They cover with ease. They kill them. There's no answer for Giannis on this team. And I just think the Bulls just started hot and then faded. They're the opposite of the Raptors, right? And you definitely don't want to take that. Now, it's juicy to get plus 700, and it's not juicy to get minus 1100. I'm not interested in that. But I do have a pick on the board, which I almost took this minus 2.5, which would be getting Bucks in 6 and 7, but the minus 180 juice wasn't really interested. So I went down here. Right now it's at plus 230. I got it at, let's see, plus 250. But I like the Bucks in a sweep here. They're going to be huge favorites every game. There's no doubt about that. The other thing you could do is take the game 1 and series parlay, but even that is minus 360 for the Bucks. It's just not enough. So I like the plus 250, plus 230, still good. Bucks to sweep is nice odds. You're going to go into every single game. They're going to take care of business game 1 and 2 at home. Game 3 is the one where you think the Bulls might take it. And if you were looking at the odds for that game, I imagine Bucks on the road are still going to be minus 8 or so. So if you're really comfortable taking Bulls money line when it's going to probably be, I don't know, plus 250, plus 300 in a game at home, maybe not quite that high. But if you're really willing to go out on that limb, then yeah, of course, don't take Bucks to sweep. But I think getting positive odds and a team that really matches up very well, Giannis is healthy, I just don't see there being much opposition. And I think if they get smashed in the first 2 games, they could fold. Now, Bucks are going to have a really good home crowd, and so are the Bulls. So that game 3 will be probably tough. And I understand not taking it. And if you like this, Bucks plus 165 to win 4-1, then cool. But in no world do I want to take the Bulls to beat the Bucks in a single game. So why wouldn't I just go with the sweep? And I did. And I think that one really works. And we'll get to some NBA Finals bets towards the end because I like some of those too. We'll circle back. These odds have been kind of all over the place. Nets Celtics is interesting. It's funny that we get a 2-7 with these two in the mix now that Kyrie can play the whole time. Once I saw Nets as underdogs, I like the Celtics. I like this matchup for the Celtics. I do. I get it. But if you can get KD as an underdog in a playoff series, it's just really hard for me not to take that just based on pure odds. So I do have it on my board. I took the Nets because I like the odds better. I think this will be a tough series. I think they match up well with one another. I think the Celtics are so much better defensively. It's truly, truly ridiculous. And yet, this just feels like one team has a point guard, one really doesn't. And the bigger part of it, this is a weird X factor to have, but one team has a center and the other doesn't. Now, I'm throwing Ben Simmons out of this. I don't think he's going to contribute, and if he does, it'll be very minor. So I'm not even really factoring him in at all. But Andre Drummond. DeAndre Jordan used to be there. Same kind of role, though. Andre Drummond can really put it to you on the glass. And Robert Williams is not there. They seem optimistic that he might come back and play at some point in the series, but if he's hobbled, he's still going to get crushed on the glass. So if Drummond is putting up double-doubles or getting 12, 13 rebounds a game, and they're able to play him in this series, I do think they'll win the series, because somehow they end up being having this element of toughness that you would think the Celtics crushed them in toughness. But Daniel Tice is not going to out-rebound Andre Drummond. It's just not going to happen. He's a good role player. Now, if the Celtics can play him off the floor consistently, and this turns into a small ball game, then yeah, it's still probably a 50-50, because you still have Durant as a small ball 5 if you want him, or something like that, or small ball 4 at worst. Whereas other teams can't neutralize that small ball Tatum thing, but the Nets can, and they can probably surpass it. It'll be interesting to watch those two do battle in this one. So I think getting the Nets as dogs against a Celtics team with Robert Williams would be scarier, because they can protect the rim and they can rebound a lot better. Without Robert Williams, I really do think it's going to be a size and strength difference, and it's rare that the Nets are going to have the scoring advantage and size and strength and finesse. And Kyrie's been great, and he's going to want revenge on the Celtics. They're going to want revenge on him too, but it's purely odds game here. I got the Nets at plus 120 to win the series. I still like him at plus 110. I acknowledge that it's probably a 50-50 when healthy, but I can't imagine the Celtics are going to just move along with Tice instead of Robert Williams. He was so important to what they were doing defensively, protecting that rim. I don't think you can just get over that. So I like getting the Nets as a dog, and I'll watch KD and Kyrie try to outscore the opponent and not play a lot of D, and it'll be frustrating, but I think they could pull it out for sure. Nuggets Warriors, again, it feels like we've seen this show before. The thing is, if the Nuggets were full strength, I'd love them here. I don't think we're going to see Murray. I don't think we're going to see Porter. And if we do, it'll be super limited, and it's already go time. So I think the Warriors have a much better chance of being healthy. Draymond is much healthier than I thought he was going to be at this point of the year, which is really good for them. They're missing a big man. I get that, which stinks against Jokic. Looney's going to have his hands full. But you're going to have to pencil Jokic in for 30, 10, and 10. You're going to have to do that. It's going to be hard. And you're just going to have to play up and down and outscore them. And Steph Curry seems like he's going to be healthy. And I have this weird feeling that they kept him out a little longer than they needed to, just to make sure his feet were healthy for the long run, which, if they're smart, and they seem to be, that's what they would do. So I do acknowledge that these odds are pretty wide for a Nuggets team that I love to watch. I love Jokic. It's just like, the reason he's in the MVP voting in the first place is because he's dragging this bad team around. At some point, that has to catch up, right? You can acknowledge that he's done an unbelievable job, that they compete. But then what? Does that mean they're going to beat the Warriors in a playoff series? I just don't really think so. I think Warriors are better coached. I think they've been here before. I think they know what to do against a big man because they've gone through the trials and tribulations of being the smaller team so many times that they're okay with giving up the points and assists that Jokic is going to make. He's going to make highlight plays. He might win the highlight tape battle of this series. But beating the Warriors 4 times, it's going to be hard to do, and especially if they don't have home court. I mean, even if this gets to a 7th game, you're really going to bet the Nuggets to win a moneyline game in Golden State against a healthy Golden State team? I just don't see it. And I think the addition of Jordan Poole, since Curry has gone out, he has leveled up. He feels really comfortable, it looks like. And now watching the 3 of them with Curry, Poole, and Clay, you don't even need... I mean, Wiggins hasn't been good in the second half, but you don't even really need him to be that big a threat. If those guys are scoring 60 combined, which they should do kind of in their sleep, I think, and you have Draymond healthy and at least battling down low against Jokic, that feels like enough to me. And you have Looney's 5 fouls in his body to throw around too if you need to go big. So I like the Warriors in a parlay, but we'll get to the specifics later. I don't necessarily love it at the minus 275, but we're going to kick it up a notch in a couple of different ways. Grizzlies, T-Wolves. I love the Grizzlies all year. If you follow the channel or the Twitter at Mike Mush Sports, the Instagram, whatever it is, I've been singing their praises all year long. I hate these odds, though. Minnesota feels good to me. What they did without Towns in that game where he had foul trouble down the stretch, he played awful the whole game, honestly. I just love Anthony Edwards is the thing. I don't think they're going to win this series, and it won't shock me if the Grizzlies win 4-1. Let's see. You could get Grizzlies minus 1.5 at minus 130. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. I'll probably think about that. I don't have it on my card right now. But don't be shocked at my Mush Sports if you see me change my tune soon enough with that. But I'll take this more game by game, I think. You could definitely catch me betting on Grizzlies at home. And if they go on the road, Minnesota might be cooking. That crowd is wild. I want to see what happens in game 3 there. I'll probably bet the Grizzlies in game 1 and then see what happens in game 2. If they're up 2-0 and the crowd is buzzing for game 3 and they drop that game, might be a good opportunity to bet them in game 4. But I just need a little more time. I'm scared of Anthony Edwards. But I do think D'Angelo Russell can be broken mentally by Ja Morant. So I love the Grizzlies here. It's just the minus 320 price. It's a little bit tough. If you want to throw that into a parlay, I didn't do it. But I wouldn't blame you. And there'll probably be some Grizzlies action from me, but I don't want to throw it into the official picks. If you like them, I totally get it. And I wouldn't even argue if you like the Timberwolves at plus 260 either. This is just it's not as close as the Toronto Sixers series. That's not why I'm leaving it off the board. It's just, if you caught this at minus 250, I would have been all in on the Grizzlies. I need to make sure Ja is healthy. There's a lot of interesting things about this. The matchup I do like is Steven Adams against Cat. I think Adams can bother him a little bit, but if Cat pulls him out to the 3-point line, it's not going to shock me if they win a game or two at all. So, yeah, those odds just seem a little bit wide for a Grizzlies team that is awesome and really fun to root for, but they're a little bit like the Nuggets, right? Like, I got to see you do it first. You got to get somewhere. You've had a great regular season, and I trust you. And they're the kind of team you do trust. They play well at home. Back to the Tony Allen, Zach Randolph days, they played well at home. But to be a minus 320 favorite, I mean, that's a pretty serious thing. And at least the Warriors have proven it a million times, right? The Grizzlies haven't really done that, so I just need a minute for that one. Now, last one we have on this list is Jazz Mavericks, and these odds have swung wildly. The Jazz deserve to be huge favorites now because Luka is out game 1. Sounds like he might be out game 2. What a huge mistake to play him in roughly meaningless games. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't want to rag on them because you don't want guys to sit out every game just because injuries could happen, but it's tragic. This Mavericks team was looking a lot better after the Porzingis trade, which I didn't expect. And I think everyone would have been on the Mavs, and now everyone is on the Jazz, and the odds have just swung wildly. They should smash without Luka. But it won't shock me if there's a moment in game 1 where it's like tied at halftime because you're seeing Dinwiddie have a good game and Brunson, and the two of them are kind of carving them up. And that'll be a good time to take Jazz second half and Jazz in game 2 and stuff like that. It won't shock me if the Mavs start hot, though. So I threw the Jazz in a parlay for this series just to make these odds a little better. Another good example of comparing odds, right? I mean, they're minus 300 against a Mavericks team that they revolve around one player who's not even there for at least one game, maybe the whole series. And the Grizzlies are minus 300 against a Timberwolves team that's feeling good about themselves and is fully healthy. That's why these odds don't jive to me. So I'm willing to put the Jazz in my parlay, but not really the Grizzlies. Not quite yet. I'm trying to talk myself into it. I didn't really get there. And that's a wrap. I mean, we said we weren't going to do the Suns in the first round. We'll take that game by game because the odds will be too wide. And then the Heat, it's just I don't want to bet against the Cavs or the Hawks depending on who wins that series. So let's recap the picks quickly before we wrap. So we got 4 units risked to 4 picks, rather 5 units risked overall on these picks right now. And for the season, we are up 45.3 units. 2 units we're going to put on Bucks to win the East and Suns to win the East. So that's an overall arching one that I really like because I wanted to be able to work the favorites in somehow. And I want to get those odds now because they are plus 648, which seems wild for something that is probably the most popular matchup that's assumed for the finals. I don't think you're going to get these odds again, so I'm going to take it while I can. Plus 648, Bucks to win the East, Suns to win the West. 2 units on that. Then I have 1 unit on Jazz to win the series, Warriors to win the series, and Bucks to win the series. So the Jazz have to beat the Mavs. We talked about how Luka's not there. Warriors have to beat the Nuggets. I think that's hopefully easy. That's the hardest one of the 3, in my opinion. And then Bulls are going to get smashed by the Bucks. So we have the Bucks there. And that comes out to plus 105 for those three. So as of now, I have 1 unit on that. Check the Twitter, though. Before tomorrow, anything could change. We might bump these up. I'm going to do game by game also, so we're not getting carried away with the units. If you're more into taking the series bets than the game bets, which I respect, bump these unit counts up. I'm confident in all of them. But I know myself, and we're going to end up putting some more bankroll into the playoffs as we go along. So starting a little bit slow. I love that Bucks Suns bet, though, I got to tell you. So 1 unit on that, plus 105, Jazz, Warriors, Bucks to win the series. Then I'm taking 1 unit on the Bulls to sweep, the Bucks to sweep the Bulls, plus 250. Got to be good odds. Has to be. You're going to look at those game 3 odds, and you're going to be a little scared because you're like, wait, well, why are the Bucks only -5 or 5.5 on the road? Trust it. Trust Giannis. He's going to go off. I think he's got his eyes set on another ring. I think he feels still somehow disrespected, like he hasn't earned the respect yet despite of what he did last year, which is kind of true. And then also we're taking the Nets to win the series against the Celtics, plus 120. The odds are just there. So that's 5 units so far risked on the NBA playoffs. There's going to be a lot more. Check the Twitter and the Instagram at Mike Mush Sports. Like the video. Subscribe for a lot more basketball stuff. Love hoops. We're going to be talking about it. We are plus 45.3 units on the year. I hope you've been following and made some money. I know I have. We're going to be back with more picks, more stuff. If you want some bonus stuff, you lasted all the way to the end. Congratulations. The NBA play-in starts in a couple of hours. And if you're watching this live, welcome. Thank you. And if you are catching it later, but you slipped it in before, I like the Cavs against the Hawks tonight at the odds, but I'm parlaying it. Same game parlay. Cavs money line against the Hawks. Clint Capella under 15.5 rebounds, alternate line. Darius Garland over 19.5 points, just got to drop 20, alternate line there. And an alternate line on Evan Mobley over 11.5 points. Plus 290 for that parlay. Cavs, Capella under rebounds, Garland over points, Mobley over points, plus 290. I like that. Throwing a unit on it. And then I got real lucky on this one. Put in Pelicans money line against the Clippers when they were dogs. I still recommend them now. And then Paul George was out for the game. My original parlay, same game parlay, Pelicans money line against the Clippers. CJ McCollum 20+ points, and Paul George under 34.5. I think he'll implode in some way, but I thought the 34.5 alternate line was safe. Then it was announced that he's not playing. So I love the Pelicans now. I think you could take an alternate line on them giving some points and really profit about that. So take a look at what options you have if you still have time. But I still have Pelicans to win and McCollum over points. The odds are all adjusted now because Paul George is out for the game, so get it while you can. But that's a quick one to slip in. And we'll be back for a lot more between the rounds, after the rounds, during the rounds. Who knows? We'll see you next time. Subscribe, tell your friends, tell your mom. Peace out.